Call the meeting to order. If those that are able, if you'd stand with me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Today is June 20th. It's Tuesday. It's 9 o'clock, and this is the county board meeting. And our first item of business is going to be any additions or deletions to the agenda. All right, I'd look for a motion to
Motion to
approve the
approve,
agenda.
Mr. Chair.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion on the agenda. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Our next item of business is the approval of our consent agenda. I will look to the board if there is anything that anyone wants to have pulled for further discussion.
Looks good to me. I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Second.
we've got a motion and a second. And gentlemen, this will be a roll call vote. Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Wincher?
Aye.
Casper?
Aye.
And myself, Commissioner Jelinski, is an aye vote. That motion passes. We will now move into the sheriff's report, the sheriff's 2022 annual report, and the sheriff is with us today, and the sheriff also has a new employee. I'm crossing my fingers and saying, better be a new employee. This one I don't recognize.
So, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Morning, Sheriff.
Sergeant John DeCock came from Todd County. It's like the NFL draft, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We gotta look at this as a draft, and
That's right.
I think we got rated really high. I think we got a steal. John was, he started his law enforcement career in 2001. He worked part-time Eagle Bend and Clarissa. He was the chief of police in Clarissa in 2003. He started with Todd County in 2004. And he has a lot of credentials to include firearms instructor, K-9 handler, FTO, field training officer. He's a drone pilot, and he was a sergeant there. So he is our investigative sergeant in Morrison County, and we are very blessed. So just wanted to take the time and introduce him.
Welcome aboard.
Excellent.
You moved into Morrison County already?
Not yet.
But those plans are in the works.
Oh, yeah, we're looking,
Okay.
we're looking.
Okay, very good. Good to meet you, John. Welcome aboard. I wish you only the best. You're on a phenomenal team.
I agree. I'm hoping I can be
Welcome.
an asset and appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming here.
There's no hope in you're going to be an asset. If he said so, you're going to be an asset. That's how it's going to work. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And you're welcome to stay. That's up to your boss, of course, but,
I'll let him take it.
okay, very good.
Have a great
Thank
day,
you. Take
John.
care. Stay
Nice to
safe.
meet you.
All right, Sheriff, it looks to me like we've got your 2022 annual review,
Yes.
the sheriff's office, so please.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll do a handout at first.
Sure.
Just to start.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Sheriff.
Sheriff, thank you.
Thank you. I see everybody saw us on the agenda, so we got a full house here.
Yeah, exactly.
And just give me 2 seconds, I'll kind of get my stuff situated here.
Sure.
So I was gonna do things just a little different. Normally, we go through a report and, I'm just kind of blasting numbers at you and kind of giving a synopsis of what's going on. And I call this an annual review because it's not really the routine, not the month-to-month data that I give you. We kind of looked at things a little different, and we're trying to present some new information to you as well. Hopefully, it's somewhat interesting. I started with a letter addressing you guys as the county board. And I started off by just kind of talking about the number of complaints. In 2022, we received 11,599 crime reports, which is ICRs. That's an increase of approximately 34% of our call volume compared to 2012. And then I also noticed that illegal narcotics continue to be a priority for our agency. As we move forward and look to the future, I plan on bringing DARE. That's Drug Abuse Resistance Education. We had that years back. I plan on bringing that back to our schools as well, and I'm hoping that pays dividends in the future. And at some point, working with the board and working with our local schools, I'm also looking at a school resource officer to be shared with the Upsala and Swanville schools, since there's no municipal police department in those jurisdictions. And again, this is in the future, and we're going to look at different strategies just to see if that's even feasible. So if you don't mind, I kind of want to talk about page number 2, which is going to be your organizational chain of command chart. So we have 80 employees. That includes myself, the chief deputy, and our entire staff. We are made up in different divisions to include dispatch, clerical, jail, which is our correctional officers. We have jail food service. We have our patrol deputies. We have 2 deputies on the Violent Offender Task Force. We have a bailiff that does our courtroom security. We have seasonal boat and water folks, that's 2 of them, but they're not listed on this chart. We also have snowmobile patrol, SWAT team, dive team, transport, emergency management, and our chaplaincy program. So if you look at this organizational chart, it kind of just tells you the flow of our command staff. I did not add our chaplain on there. I did not add our 2 seasonal boat and water folks, and I did not add our 4 transport officers. But if you take all those numbers and add them up, to include our chaplain, seasonal boat and water, and our 4 transport officers, you're going to have 80 personnel that work for the Morrison County Sheriff's Office. So I thought it's just a kind of a nice chart. It comes right out of our policy, and it kind of shows you the numbers per staff. If you go to page 3, which is our complaints received, I touched on this already, but what I wanted to do is kind of give you from a population standpoint where we're at. So again, complaints received, our call load did go up. And again, it was 34%. So then I took the population, I went and used some data from the Consensus Bureau. And I was able to go back to 2012 and use their population at that time. And I was able to go to 2021. For whatever reason, I wasn't able to get the 2022 data. But when you look at the population data, it went up 2.7% from 2012 to 2021. So that just kind of tells you that it's not really our population increase that are driving these numbers. It's other things like mental health or demographics, drugs, and many other issues, obviously, but though it's not the numbers in population that's driving this. So I thought that was kind of interesting. We're going to come back to this page, and I apologize for skipping around, but it's counties in alphabetical order with our crime rate. We're going to come back to this page later on. Does everybody follow me so far?
So far, yep.
Okay. So now there should be the printout, which is on the screen, the 2022 annual review. We'll kind of just go through this. If you go to page 2, I'm not going to touch on everything just for the sake of time, but if you go to page 2, you'll see the complaints received. You'll notice that looking at the monthly report, or I'm sorry, the yearly report, 2022 was the busiest month in July compared to March in 2021 and December in 2020. Sometimes activities, road conditions, things like that, gun permits, applications come into play as far as what's driving our numbers as well. If you go to the next page, which is the Randall flooding, just wanted to highlight that because that was significant in Morrison County in 2021. Just as explained in the evening hours of June 23rd and early morning hours of June 24th, Randall was inundated with over 12 and a half inches of rain. So of course, we had to do water rescue operations, which in my time with the Morrison County, I'm going to stop right here. Is everybody kind of following me where we're
Got
at?
it now, yep.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sorry about that.
We were on your first report.
Okay.
I was.
Okay. We're all good?
All good.
Okay. So yeah, it's under Randall area flooding. So anyway, we conducted 30 water rescue operations, and 30 residents from their homes had to be rescued. So this was definitely a collaborative effort amongst multiple agencies that I list on the very bottom of the column under Randall area flooding. But as far as the rescue operations, utilizing boats and other mechanisms, it was the Morrison County Sheriff's Office, DNR, and then our local fire departments. Just to add to that, Victoria McKissick was the recipient of the 2022 Emergency Manager of the Year Award. She definitely had a significant leadership role in the Randall flooding incident. I know she was asked to speak at the Governor's Conference in April of 2023, and she did present in 2 breakout sessions, kind of like lessons learned from the Randall flood, as well as working with multiple volunteer organizations and how all that worked out. So definitely learned a lot from that incident. Drug investigations, I'm gonna come back to that because that kind of flows with my crime rate chart. So we will skip over to the joint training. You'll notice that the joint training, I used this slide back in October of 2022, just because there's significance with this slide. We trained with the Minnesota State Patrol. We're definitely sharing knowledge, utilizing technology, trying to figure out how the State Patrol worked, technology on their end, what we did on our end. Of course, body cameras were fairly new, so we utilized our body cameras. So we're getting live time feeds from our SWAT members who are doing some scenario-based training at night out in the field. So that was pretty interesting to be able to be in an incident command post and see live time what they're actually seeing and what they're going up against. And we learned a lot from that. We had Amy from our IT director, she was present as well. And there was a lot of questions at hand while this was going on that need to be answered. And by having her present, she was able to make some phone calls and just assist us along the way. So what we've learned in future callouts, we definitely want an IT person present with us, just to make sure that we're up and running, and we're gonna run into glitches, that's just the way it is, but it's,
So Sheriff, let me stop you right there, if
Yep.
you, if you don't mind. Have you taken those measures to, in fact, have, I'm going to say on-call, just for the term, that's all I'm using it for, the term on-call for in a reality setting, not a training, but a reality setting, where you're pulling all the guns out, bringing all your equipment out, command post is set up, and so on and so forth. Have you had that heart-to-heart with IT that we don't just want you to train with us, we want you to be on site with us also?
so good question, Commissioner. Yes, something we learned through this training was when the mobile command post rolls out, so does our IT director. So
What I needed, thank you.
absolutely, yep. So yeah, just, again, it was just a good collaborative training, multiple scenarios that we did, suspect in the woods, subject with a weapon. As you can imagine, our approach had to be extremely important, especially when you're conducting a scenario like that. So we utilized drone. We utilized a drone where we could actually see footage from our mobile command post as well. And you can see in one of the pictures, we're actually looking at the screen. So sometimes we can see more on the big screen than what the drone operator can see on his small screen. So just working together as teams, if you will, and trying to reach the best outcome. As far as public outreach, we continue to be very busy with Coffee with a Cop. That's one of the things we do for public outreach. We're educating community members on what to look for, what we're seeing here in Morrison County, what's causing a lot of our overdoses, what we're seeing for actually cases coming through. And Stand Up For You Youth Coalition has been always present with us, as well as Public Health, so we're fortunate. But we're trying to hit every single city within Morrison County. In some cities, we've already hit multiple times. So We continue to get out there, we're continuing to push information out, what to look for, what are signs and symptoms, and how the public can help. And we really need those conversations. They're very informal, which is good, because we want anybody to come with any questions that just doesn't have to be drug-related, so. This is where it gets a little complicated. So what I did was a jail summary, but we're gonna kind of bounce back and forth because this is an overview of the graphs, but then we're gonna revert back to a full-page graph so you don't have to sit and squint your eyes. So our jail summary, in 2022, Morrison County Jail averaged 45 inmates per day. We boarded inmates from Aiken County, Beltrami, Grant, Itasca, Mahnomen, Mille Lacs, Pope, and Wadena, along with our own inmates in Morrison County. You can see during the year, approximately $12,280 in booking fees was collected, and just under $1,400 in fingerprinting fees were collected. Each inmate is charged $20 a day to stay at our jail. So if someone gets booked on offense and they're sentenced, let's say it's 2 months, 60 days, they're gonna have to pay us $20 a day to stay in our jail. And that fee is always looked at annually, and we're probably gonna be looking at it again and possibly looking for an increase. As we compare to other counties, we notice that we're a little bit on the low end. Sentence to Serve, even though we only have a few inmates that go out, it's still a great program. I still continue to hear from the public, which I pass on to you guys as a board once in a while, all the positive feedback. You can see our crew leader, Kim Lilamo, has put in over 4,040 hours, working multiple jobs, and again, the feedback we're getting from the community is unbelievable. They're very happy to see her and the inmates out there working, doing community projects. If you go to the,
Mr. Chair.
you bet.
Going back, Sheriff, to the $20 per day. I'm sure we have some challenges collecting that fee, if, like you mentioned, the 60 days. I mean, that inmate would owe more than $1,000. Do we continue going after once they released, or what happens?
It's a good question, Commissioner. So yeah, basically what happens is they're supposed to pay $20 a day. Of course, sometimes they open up accounts like PX for food, for drinks. So there's always accounts that, you know, if they're gonna open up and they have money for that, that shows us that they have money to pay for these, that per day stay. But usually what happens is, if none of that happens, none of the accounts are opened, it gets turned over for collections for that purpose.
Thank you.
You bet. So just to continue on with our jail revenue, if we go to the full page scale, you'll notice that in 2022, we brought in $180,470 compared to 2021, which was $57,335. What we got going for us this year is the Beltrami contract, which we signed a 2-year contract. We're guaranteed $1,100 a day for 20 beds. So that's been going good. I looked at our numbers through May of this year. We're already at $159,175. So if you are to add on the money that's going to be owed to us from Beltrami, that'll be another for sure $231,000. So it should put us at $390,175 by the end of this year.
Great job, that's all
So-
I'm gonna say to that.
And I have to defer that to our jail administrator and our staff, because I know with more people comes more headaches. And I hear about it, but I also know that looking at the number figure in front of us, it's greatly appreciated that our staff is putting the extra time and figuring out how to maneuver through a lot of these issues that they're dealing with, so we're very happy. So yeah, that's what we're looking at there. And then for our inmate count, it does show 2022, we had 1,290 males, and we had 1,290 males, and we had 361 females in 2022. So now, this chart here, this is something new. It gets a little complicated, but I'll try to explain it the best we can. So on the top chart, this represents each day of the week And it also indicates that the busiest day for 911 calls that the sheriff's office received was on Saturdays in 2022. So these are strictly just 911 calls. These are not admin calls that come in. These are 911 calls. The company that we work through is IES, which is Independent Emergency Services. They put these charts together for us. They manage our 911 trunk system, which is basically our phone network that our 911 calls come in from. You'll notice it's titled 9,296 911 calls in 2022. You can see from the left side with the blue shade, starts on Sunday, green is Monday, and it goes so on all the way till Saturday. And Saturday, you'll see, was the highest number of 911 calls that we actually received.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
You bet.
Those calls on the bottom add up way more than 9,000 calls, don't they?
I was hoping you would ask that. I was waiting for someone to see how interested you guys were. Very good. So yeah, what it is there's a phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 gives, when a phone call, when a 911 call comes in, phase 1 gives like the cell phone the tower location. But it really doesn't give us their known location. So now the dispatchers have to go back into that entry, if you will, and they have to inquiry more to get more accurate information, which then kind of skews the statistics, because it's going in on the same call on the same date, but it's increasing the volume,
Gotcha.
so.
Yep, makes sense.
But yeah, good question. So yeah, basically they call it a rebid. They're querying the database and of course the numbers increase because of that. So then if you look at the bottom chart, the chart represents 24 hours in a day. And you'll notice the far left is the blue shade, that's midnight, and the green is 01 a.m., the purple is 02 a.m. as we go from left to right and so on, if that makes sense. So you'll notice that at 6 a.m., the call volume of 911 calls start to rise, and then they actually peak at 8 p.m. So that kind of tells us, in relation to 911 calls, that's really our busiest part of the day, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. for 911 calls. Any questions on any of that? Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So this is our medical examiner cases. I thought this was kind of interesting. There's really no number that I can prepare for as far as number of deaths. That's in God's hands. That's not in my hands. But I can tell you Morrison County had 190 deaths in 2022. 53 bodies were assumed by the medical center at the Midwest Medical Examiner's Office in Anoka, Minnesota. And 137 bodies were declined. And when I say assumed, I'm just using their language, that they assume the bodies. The bodies are coming to their examiner's office for autopsy.
Sheriff, if I might interrupt just for a second, Morrison County had 190 deaths in 2022
Correct,
that went through that the sheriff's office had something to do with,
correct.
because there probably was more than 190 deaths, that not all deaths, and maybe you want to touch on that, not all deaths go through the sheriff's office?
Well, so if it's a natural death, any death that our office is informed about, we will call the Ramsey County Medical Examiner's Office. However, there are exceptions. An exception may be somebody's on hospice. They already know that they're already signed up, if you will, and they're getting the care they need at home. In cases like that, it wouldn't go through the medical examiner's office because all the paperwork has already been filled out, and the state's already aware of it. But in most cases, most everything else is going to get pushed through us. If that makes
What
sense.
happens when someone passes at a nursing home or at an assisted living home or in a hospital?
Yep. So if it's a hospital or a residence/apartment or a home that has emergency care on hand, i.e. licensed RN nurses, then it wouldn't come through us.
It would not?
It would not.
Okay, very good. That's just all I was looking
Yep.
for.
So if we go to the second paragraph under medical examiner cases, you'll notice a breakdown of manner of deaths. 53 bodies were assumed, which included 2 homicides, 28 accidents, 19 natural deaths, and 4 suicides. We're going to go more in depth with this as we go to the next page, but I'm just going to touch on the DUIs now. Top right-hand corner, you'll see there was 113 DUIs in 2022. A breakdown of that was 87 of them were alcohol-related, if you look at the pie chart. 10 of them were drug-related, 16 were refusals. In other words, they had the option to give either a breath test or they had an option to give a blood and/or urine test, and they refused. They did not want to cooperate, so they were charged with a refusal. I thought that was interesting because when you look at the number of drug-related controlled substance DUIs, we had 10. So I wanted to figure out where we're at this year. So you can imagine I drove my staff nuts pulling figures, and I'm so thankful for them because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to present any of this to you guys. But this was as of Friday. As of Friday, we had 27 DUIs, 3 refusal, and 9 controlled substance DUIs. So this is from January 1, 2023 through Friday. Now, I can tell you this morning I read reports, so I'm up to date what's going on, and there was 2 more additional controlled substance DUI arrests over the weekend, so we can add to this number. So it's busy. Yes, our guys are trained more. They're going to more DRE, drug recognition expert training. But with the legalization of marijuana coming through on August 1st, I can see this creating more of a problem and us dealing with more of these controlled substance, driving under the influence DUIs as well. So I just wanted to kind of point out what the statistics show and where we're at currently and kind of what the trend is looking at.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
I would like to ask Sean, how do you go about testing for this new marijuana, the new law? What does that all change for you?
So it changes a few things. We have no roadside tests right now. If it's an alcohol-related test, we have a PBT, which is a preliminary breath test. You blow into this machine, this portable machine that our deputies have, and it's going to give a readout of your alcohol concentration in your blood. So, in other words, if you're 0.08 or higher, that would be a DUI offense, right? It would give us a digital readout, and I could look at that and say, okay, maybe he only had a couple beers, or whoa, he's way over the legal limit. I can't rely on that test 100%. I still have to have driving conduct, number one, to pull you over. To pull you out of the vehicle and to make an arrest, you have to fail field sobriety tests, which are tests that I have you do, whether it's walking in a straight line and then following directions as far as how many steps and making a turn that's explained to you ahead of time so you can get a visual on it to see if you're following directions and making the right turn, and then counting the number of steps back. So we're looking for coordination, judgment, are you using different component parts of your brain to pay attention as well. And then we're looking for whether or not you have good coordination. We're checking your eyes. We're checking your balance. There's multiple things we're doing. So that part doesn't change when it goes from alcohol to drug-related DUIs. However, we have no roadside test where you can blow in a machine that's going to show you how much, whether or not you're intoxicated under the influence of marijuana. So this is where our DREs come into place. They can come in and do specific tests, different things where they've actually been trained to cue on to kind of shore up some of the stuff that's already known, but just to get better test results or get a better feel for whether or not this person was definitely intoxicated under a controlled substance. So to answer your question, we're going to have to do, if it's a DUI and it's marijuana related, again, we got to have driving conduct. We're going to put the person through field sobriety tests. And then we're gonna offer them, at this point, either a urine or a blood test. Because those are the results that we gotta rely on. We can't rely on the breath tests anymore. However, that test would get submitted to the BCA, and then it may take weeks for us to figure out what the final result is. So we still have enough based on driving conduct and failed sobriety tests that we can arrest somebody. But then, once they're sober, we'll have to let them go, and pending the BCA results, and then there'll be a court date where they'll have to reappear, if that answers your question.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
So if we move on to manner of death, I know I'm skipping around, I apologize, but this is going back to our medical examiner summary. You can see manner of death in 2023, there was 28 accidental deaths. They included 1 fire, 12 drug/substance abuse overdoses, 1 drowning, 13 blunt force injuries, and 1 asphyxia. Our natural deaths were 19. So a natural death is somebody died of a known or natural process, basically. Could be a cardiac arrest or something like that, where it's just going to be labeled natural death. And then you can see suicide was 4 in 2021. It was also the same number, 4. Any questions on any of this? I'm going to wrap things up with our 2022 BCA crime stats. And just give me 2 seconds here. I want to make sure Terry's able to take a break with her typing. Okay. So approximately 2019, we switched over to NIBRS, and NIBRS is basically we're reporting monthly to the FBI. The BCA is actually gathering the data, and then they're reporting the data to the FBI. So any call load that we get, whether it's a DUI, damage to property, we have to have a specific code, if you will, and that code has to be coded on the incident report, and it has to be updated, as soon as we get the report that we're being called to. NIBR stands for National Incident-Based Reporting System, but it only keeps track of Part A and Part B crimes. As you go through your paperwork, you'll notice what those Type A and Type B crimes are. They're all listed. They're the more serious crimes, if you will. So now, I'm gonna so we'll keep this page up, but then I'm gonna go back to your initial handout. I think your last page. I did an Excel sheet, and it kind of shows us where we're at and what the Morrison County crime rate is. So the crime rate, you'll see on the very bottom, the crime rate per 100,000 displays the number of reported crimes divided by the total population, and then the result is multiplied by 100,000. So before I start, I think it's fair that if you look at Morrison County, you'll see the population 21,693. The reason that number is low, we're used to seeing whether it's 33, 34,000. We're actually using the NIBR system now where you can actually check everything that applies. And if I put just Morrison County and I don't list the municipal police departments, it lists Morrison County as every jurisdiction that doesn't have a municipal police department, if that makes sense. So it's all Morrison County incidents. It doesn't include Little Falls PD, it doesn't include Motley City, it doesn't include the city of Royalton. So what I tried to do is I wanted to give we use 14 comparative counties. I put them in alphabetical order on the left, and then I kind of ranked them as far as population, square miles, and their crime rate. You'll notice Morrison County, we are the 7th highest population out of the 14 counties that we utilized, or the 13 other counties. You'll notice that we are ranked 5th highest for square miles. And then our crime rate, we're ranked the third highest. So, again, this is new information that's on our fingertips that we never used to be able to have access to, but now with the NIBRs and the continuous monthly training, we're able to collect data like this. So I thought it was interesting. I just kind of wanted to show the board kind of what I saw from this, and obviously there's probably more questions that come about this, but I felt that this is information I could certainly share with other department heads and community leaders within our county, so we can try and get a pulse on what's going on in our county and how do we, and what applies to our crime rate. If you continue through our crime data collection, I did highlight a few things with our Group A offenses that kind of stuck out the most. We had a lot of sex offenses. We had a lot of drug narcotic violations, and we had a lot of assaults. Assaults in general, we had 34 domestics and 42 fights. If you continue on to the next page, we had a lot of destruction, damage, vandalism, that'd be under crimes against property. And we also had a lot of larceny/theft offenses. And then if you go to Group B arrests, our leading number there was disorderly conduct. And then we had, again, driving under the influence, which I just touched base on. So these were all statistics from 2022 and kind of the leading driving forces behind our numbers. So with that, I think I threw a lot of data at you guys. I'll answer any questions the best I can. Otherwise, I think I got things wrapped up on my end.
Gentlemen, Commissioner Wincher.
Again, with this new law, with marijuana allowed in the state of Minnesota, are the police officers, are they gonna have to carry scales in their car? Because I think it's 2 ounces that now legally they'll be able to have in their car. So are you gonna have to, it's a joke in my opinion,
Yeah.
but that's,
Well, so a lot of guys, I mean, we do have digital scales back at our office, in our inventory room, where everything is weighed, if you will, to include packaging, because that has to be included in our reports. But marijuana is not the only thing that's disturbing, that's facing law enforcement. There's so many things. I was just recently at the Minnesota Sheriff's Association conference up in Craigens, and for a dirty pipe, let's say you had a pipe with methamphetamine residue, it used to be a felony. It's currently a gross misdemeanor, but as of August 1st, it's no longer a crime. So it's frustrating,
I'm sure.
and we're still trying to figure out legally, what does that mean for law enforcement? It used to be probable cause to be able to search a vehicle. You know, now, is it still gonna carry that probable cause? Those are questions that we need to get ironed out, that we're working with our legal counsel, with the Sheriff's Association, as well as Brian Mittendorf, our county attorney, on. But yeah, there's a lot of questions. Is it still considered child endangerment? If I have a child in a car seat and now there's a dirty pipe rolling around by their feet. You know, there's a lot of things. It seems like the state definitely put the cart before the horse on this, and there's more questions than answers after these new laws are gonna be coming into play. But those are things we'll work through and we'll figure out, I guess. But
Right.
a lot of challenges ahead.
Yes, you guys will have a lot of challenges.
Further questions for the sheriff? Sheriff, I would have to say, pretty good report, pretty detailed, and quite honestly, I'm confident if we wanted to, or if you wanted to, you could go way farther into the weeds on this. Starting right from our 911 center with the process today, right this moment, versus the process that it's probably, I'm just gonna hypothetically take a stab at this, that's gonna change with Next Gen 911, and I'm gonna suggest a year from now, the change that will take place, whether that's gonna be location changing, the speed delivery, et cetera, et cetera. I was at a AMC meeting here recently, and the question was posed, who has a wireline phone today? And several people, of course, raised their hand, and how many have a cell phone? Well, everybody has a cell phone. And of course, the speaker, if you will, suggested, what are you wasting your money for on a wireline phone? Because it can do nothing. Your cell phone can do so much, but your cell phone can do so much more than your 911 center can do, because your 911 centers in the state of Minnesota are yesterday's technology. And obviously, law enforcement, public safety, and the world is demanding more technology right along the way. So I firmly, personally believe that there is going to be such a gigantic change in our 911 centers, perhaps as early as tomorrow, but perhaps in a year that's just going to blow our minds again. And there will be more details and more numbers that are going to change. I firmly see that. And that's just one little aspect, of course, of your agency, and I know that, so appreciate that. Thank you. Good job. One more time, anything further for the sheriff? Sheriff, have yourself a good day. Stay safe. Keep smiling.
Just give me a half an hour to get all my paperwork.
There you go. Absolutely.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Absolutely. And we will give you time, Sheriff. No.
All right, thanks. Everyone else is gone.
Maybe next time we'll have a bigger crowd.
Yeah, jeez. Or just don't put my name on it.
There we go. Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
You bet. All right, we're going to move into our next item of business. Our next item of business on our agenda is number 6. It's the administrator's report. To the administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, gentlemen. The first item that I bring forward is a follow-up from last week's planning session. You received a handout this morning in addition to the board packet, and I'm looking for board action to approve Morrison County entering into the Logis Group Insurance Program for the duration of plan years 2025 to 2026 with Health Partners. Again, by being part of this pool, this reduces our rate of insurance coverage for our employees and locks us in at 9.5% for the next 2 years.
Gentlemen, we had discussions about this at our planning meeting, and today I would look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
I'd second that.
Got a motion, and we have a second. Discussion, further discussion.
If I may.
Please.
We have this, do we as a county commissioner each have to sign this? Is that what it's for? It just says,
Just the chair and myself, Commissioner.
Further discussion. Hearing none, gentlemen, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Wincher?
aye.
Lemire?
Aye.
Casper? And myself, Commissioner Jelinski, as an aye vote, that motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Second item is I'm going to ask for your endorsement on a thank you. And I'd like to publicly thank the Richard Howard Farrell Post 46 for their donation of the United States and POW MIA flags, which we will fly proudly out in front of the Government Center. And the thank you reads, "Dear Legion members, on behalf of Morrison County, I'd like to extend our sincere appreciation to the Little Falls American Legion for their donation of the United States and POW MIA flags to be flown at the Government Center in Little Falls. We are proud to have the flags flown at our establishment."
Absolutely.
So that's that. The next item is, I met with department heads last week, and I had a request, and for those are appointed as well as elected, and that is to provide the board a legislative update. So on September 19th, our department heads will all assemble here, those that have impacts due to legislative session that adjourned here a couple weeks back, and we will provide an update to the board on what those impacts are to Morrison County. It's referred to as a historic legislative session with all the changes and laws that were passed. So I gave the department heads here about 3 months to prepare for that. And some say these changes can take years. one even said up to 10 years, so a very experienced person to implement all of these changes. So I'm excited to make that announcement to the board, so you can look forward to that. I've given you 3 months to prepare yourselves, but it will be impressive to hear the amount of change underway for Morrison County and the staff as we respond to these legislative changes.
I'm looking forward to that one. Thank you for that.
And the last item, gentlemen, with, I would say, heavy heart, I announce the retirement of Ms. Tara Selinsky with the Attorney's Office, with just over 46 and a half years with Morrison County. This is one of those mixed emotions events. Tara will come before the board next week to be recognized and honored for her service to Morrison County, which I look forward to that. But today, gentlemen, I'm just looking for your authorization to post against that position to hire at equal or lesser grade for the Attorney's Office, so we can work to fill some very large shoes. And no motion needed, just looking for a head nod that there's no concern with backfilling that important position.
Rock on.
Okay. Gentlemen, that is all I have this morning.
Thank you, Matt. All right, gentlemen, our next item of business is going to be our schedules. And our schedules are going to go from June 25th to July 15th. And if it's all the same to everybody else, I'm going to get things kicked off. On the 26th of June at 10 o'clock in the morning, I've got a State Emergency Communications Board planning meeting. This is kind of a retreat planning meeting. It's going to be at the City of St. Cloud and is pretty much scheduled for the duration of the day. There's another one that is scheduled in July. I don't have that one marked down yet, but there's two of these meetings, and the one on the 26th I have every intention of being at. There's another one in July, and I'm just not sure that I can make that one work yet. The 27th of June, 8:30 in the morning, we've got a planning meeting. That same day, that evening at 6 p.m., we have a Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meeting. On the 29th of June, 10 o'clock in the morning, there's a tour at North Freeze Dry, kind of over by the fairgrounds, 15582 18th Street Northeast. On the 30th of June, Friday the 30th at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Emergency Medical Systems Joint Powers Board meeting. I believe that is at the Service Center in Waite Park. On July 3rd, 4th, 5th, on July 6th, 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a State Emergency Communications Board Legislative Committee meeting, and that should be remote. On the 7th at 8:30 in the morning, as it is scheduled right now, we have a TSWAC meeting. Historically, the week of the 4th of July, sometimes we skip that one, but it is scheduled, and if we skip it, we will skip it. But as of right now, we have one scheduled. All right. On the 11th of July, at 9 o'clock in the morning, we've got a county board meeting. On the 13th, 10 o'clock in the morning, Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board Next Generation 911 Committee meeting, and that is virtual. On the 14th at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board RAC meeting. That's also virtual. On the 15th, I have Piers Freedom Fest marked down on my calendar, and that's all I have for right now. Commissioner Wincher.
Okay, on the above and beyond, on the 26th, there's a Morrison County Extension meeting here at the courthouse at 5:30. On Friday, I think I told our assistant administrator here that I had soil and water last week, but it's gonna be this Friday, SWCD.
Da-da-da-da.
On the 30th of June. So that's at 8 o'clock. And you have marked down a parade. I got a couple of them marked down, but the Harding Days Parade is on Saturday the 8th. There's a rodeo there, and I think they're just ones that, they kind of started the rodeo this year, so I decided to bring that up. So otherwise, I'm good.
Commissioner Lemire.
28th, HRA, 9 o'clock at HRA. Did you get T-Strack on the 7th?
I did.
Okay. Yellow Ribbon on the 10th, 3:30. Scandy Valley Township Public Hearing on the 13th at Scandy Valley Town Hall. That's all I got.
If I might stop you right there, that public hearing is for,
I'm not positive yet. I'm thinking it might be on taking over their own.
Zoning and ordinance?
Huh?
The ordinance or the zoning,
Yeah,
this
they're
discussion?
Taking over their own zoning.
it's the township public it's holding that?
Scandy Valley's holding a town. their
Thank you.
public Hearing.
Yep.
To see whether or not they choose their own zoning.
Gotcha, thank you. Commissioner Casper.
I'm completely covered.
6 o'clock.
The bulk of my meetings are the second half of the month.
Very good. Then I look to Tabitha and I say, Tabitha, what did we miss?
Just the 4th, of course, Mr. Chair, government center will be closed
Yep.
for central service and services. Obviously, the jail will remain staffed in our emergency services.
Very good, and I'm going to speak boldly for the rest of the board, and I'm going to direct this to the administrator. As I said, historically speaking, that TSWAC meeting on the 7th, week of the 4th of July, is very often eliminated, and I'm just going to let you work on that, and if we need to meet, we need to meet, and so on and so forth, and we'll go from there. More to come.
And can I clarify one thing?
Sure.
You said that freeze dry thing is on the 29th?
Freeze-dried.
Or no,
Freeze-dried is,
28th?
I've got the 29th.
Okay, I thought you said 28th. Okay.
Nope, I've got the
29th at 10.
I've got the 29th at 10. You know, I don't know that any of us can make it there, but that's when it's,
I was just making sure. I thought you said the 28th and
Okay.
I had it on my calendar.
And
Thank
if I
you.
may, I'm gonna go back one more to the Morrison County Fair is the 22nd, and I think we are scheduled to work a booth.
well, I am, I can
I
guarantee
know
you
I'm
that.
gonna do it, but if you could send that out to me again, please, what I'm scheduled for to work? All right.
I'm scheduled for the 24th, pretty much for
The 2nd, aren't we? Or what?
See, there we go, send it out, there we go.
Saturday.
Or Saturday, whatever Saturday.
the
is.
24th.
It's coming Saturday.
9:30.
Yes.
That's this weekend already, holy
That's
Yes.
this week, all
gosh.
right. All right, I'll look to the board. Anything further from anyone on the board? I'd look to say that we had a very entertaining time with the sheriff here. That was very nice. The administrator, Tabitha, anything further? Gentlemen, it's 9:53. I'm going to call this meeting adjourned.
Hey, we'll see you at the fair.
See you at the fair, at the Morrison County